Welcome to Chapter or Module 5 on Objectives for the EMS Testing Online Item Writing Workshop. In this chapter, the objectives will be able to differentiate between an objective and a goal. We'll be able to identify and describe the four parts of an objective, and given an objective, attach it to the correct domain and bloom level within that domain. So, a goal tends to be very global, far-reaching, hard to measure, something kind of altruistic. So, for example, when I teach, I always tell my teachers that I'm teaching, I hope that they will be as good or better than I am. That is a goal. An objective, on the other hand, is very observable, specific, and measurable. So, by the conclusion of this course, this teacher will be able to receive higher marks on evaluations than I have ever received on any presentation they ever give. That would be measurable, observable, documentable. Whereas the goal, they'll be better than I am, defined better. Better is kind of nebulous in nature. So you need to be very specific in objectives as to how will they demonstrate this? How will you know they have achieved this objective? Parts of the objective. Within an objective should be the audience that answers the question who. So that's typically the student or the participant. What behavior will they do? What's the performance? What are they going to do? They'll be able to define shock. Condition is answering the question when or given what. So by the conclusion of the course, the student will be able to. Or given a simulated patient, the student will be able to. And then finally, the degree, part of the objective, identifies how well or according to what standard. So oftentimes students will complain, well, my book says this, whereas if you're going off a different standard based on your question, then their book may not be accurate according to the standard that you're using. For example, another example might be define shock. Well, it's when you get scared or when you rub your feet and you touch something metal and you get a pinprick feeling in your finger. Well, is that definitions of shock? Well, yes, it is, but it's not maybe the shock that we were looking for of inadequate tissue perfusion. So how well or according to what standard answers the question on degree. Here are three complete objectives that have all four parts of an objective. So it says, at the conclusion of this session, that would answer the question when, so that would be the condition. The participant, that's the audience, that's the who, will be able to differentiate a tension pneumothorax from a simple pneumothorax. That's what they're going to do, so that's the behavior. As presented in the text is the content reference, or also referred to as the degree. It says according to who. That would probably be a cognitive question, or within the cognitive domain, because it's asking them to differentiate two things, not using a simulated patient, but just basically to tell the difference between the two. The verb itself, differentiation, is a higher level within Bloom's taxonomy. It actually would be up in the analysis level, because you'd look at the signs and symptoms of a tension pneumothorax, you'd look at the signs and symptoms of a simple pneumothorax, and you would look for the differences in those two sets of signs and symptoms. So that's analyzing data, so the analysis level. The second objective exampled here is given a simulated patient, the participant will be able to administer oxygen with a nasal cannula in 10 seconds or less and without error. So given a simulated patient is the condition. The participant, as the audience, will be able to administer oxygen with a nasal cannula is what they're going to do, or the behavior, in 10 seconds or less and without error is the degree. So given this is they're doing something with their hands, this would be a psychomotor objective. And because they have to do it in a set period of time and without error would mean they would be doing this at what's referred to as the precision level. At a clinical setting, the student will address the patient by the appropriate name at all times. So at a clinical setting is the condition answering when, or given what, in this case when. The clinical student is the who, the audience, will address the patient by the appropriate name. That's what they're going to do, behavior. At all times is the degree, that means all the time. So this would be an affective because it deals with professionalism. An affective objective, and in this case it would be at the valuing level because they have to do it all the time. So in summary, we've differentiated between a goal and an objective. Goals are global, objectives are specific and measurable. We've talked about the parts. They're A, B, C, D, audience, behavior, condition, degree. Audience, the who, behavior, the what, condition, given what, degree, how well or according to who. And then placing the objective usually is at what level would one anticipate. Within this program, you'll primarily be dealing in the cognitive domain. So as a quick review of those objective levels within Bloom's taxonomy, we're knowledge and comprehension, application and analysis, synthesis and evaluation. Hope you've enjoyed this module. This is Module 5 again on objectives. Our next module is Module 6, General Guidelines for Test Item Development. So now we'll start to get into the meat of developing questions. Again, as always, if you have any suggestions for improvement, please feel free to share those with us. Thank you very much.